Hi Econ students and welcome back. Today's topic, inflation. As we know by now, inflation can be defined as the continuous and considerable rise or increase in the price level in general. In order to measure inflation, we can differentiate between three measurements, namely our CPI, our PPI, and our GDP deflator. For more information on the different measures used to calculate inflation, be sure to watch the explainer video. Demand shocks and supply shocks are identified as the common causes for inflation. For more information with regards to the demand and supply shocks as causes for inflation, please be sure to watch the explainer video. For today, the focus will be on whether inflation is good or bad for the economy. Today we will therefore look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. Let's start with the good. Numerous economists believe that a moderate rate of inflation is an indication of a healthy economy. In order to explain this, let's look at an example. Inflation alters the expectations of consumers. If consumers expect the prices to rise, they will rather buy goods and services today than tomorrow. An increase in demand for goods and services therefore stimulates the economy. The more the consumers are willing to spend, the more money will be in circulation, in turn giving rise to inflation. Inflation therefore indicates the level of economic activity of a country. Secondly, inflation removes the risk of deflation in an economy, which we will look at in a few seconds. Next up, let's look at the bad. Although some degree of inflation is considered as good for the economy, too much inflation can have severe negative impacts on the economy. Inflation erodes the purchasing power as inflation decreases the value of a given currency. Apart from purchasing power, inflation also bears great losses to savings. For example, consider the following worker. During this worker's entire working life, he saved by means of a pension plan. Due to the high levels of inflation, this worker finds out that his entire life savings has been eroded due to inflation. One of the major disadvantages of inflation is the effect that it will have on your daily income. Since inflation will increase the level of prices, in turn reducing our purchasing power, if your income is not adjusted or increased in tandem to inflation, your income will therefore decrease. This brings us to our last point, the ugly side of inflation. One of the most common questions that I found is, why do we not just print more money? Printing more money is never the solution for an economy that faces severe poverty. If we print more money, this would give rise to hyperinflation. Hyperinflation is the situation in which the value of a national currency loses its entire value. Countries such as Zimbabwe and Venezuela suffered from severe hyperinflation. However, the absence of inflation, or an inflation rate of zero, is also bad for the economy. This is known as deflation, and this occurs when the price levels in general continues to decrease. Deflation impacts the economy negatively, as expectations on future prices are deemed to decrease. Therefore, consumers would rather wait for tomorrow or the next day in order to make a purchase. In turn, no money is being spent in the economy. The absence of spending in the economy in turn shrink our economy. Japan is one of the countries battling with deflation. Lastly, stagflation is one of the major negative effects of inflation. Stagflation occurs when there's an increase in both the inflation rate in addition to the unemployment rate, leaving our workers without jobs, having to pay higher prices. For a detailed explanation on stagflation, Please visit the explainer video above. So, is inflation good or bad for the economy? For a healthy economy, a moderate rate of inflation is good. A moderate inflation rate indicates an active and healthy economy. Although a moderate degree of inflation is good for the economy, inflation rates that are too high are bad for the economy. As we've seen today, high rates of inflation have major negative impacts on the economy. So how do central banks maintain a stable rate of inflation? In order to achieve a stable rate of inflation, in turn protecting the value of the national currency, central banks employ inflation targeting. The announced target inflation for a given central bank therefore allows a certain degree of inflation to take place in order to achieve maximum employment in the economy. Thank you all for watching. That concludes today's video.